much. Now we're recording. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to our speakers. Colin and I are genuine fans of your work. Actually, Camille, in my undergrad, I saw your Miss Canadian video in one of my history classes. So it's very cool to be seeing you and meeting you in this space right now. So basically, Iyaric is an initiative where we are planning on creating an environment and a space for Black and Indigenous and Caribbean students within Cerlac. We're going to be giving platforms to people who are doing, research within their fields, and just, inviting speakers and creating an environment where people can engage in conversations and learn from one another. So we'll be having some more speakers as well in the incoming months. And again, thank you so much for being here. And we're really excited to see what you have planned for us today. So I believe we were going to start with Natalie, if that's okay.
Well, just before we get to the speakers, I just wanted to mention that there is a really good opportunity, a research funding opportunity available to the Cerlac community. It's the President's Fund for Research on Indigenous, Black, and EDI topics, and the funding ranges from 500 to 5,000. It's a really simple application process that's just available to the Cerlac community, and I'm just going to post the application link in the comments for everyone. So for those of you interested, you can go check that out. Yeah, and also, oh yes, Honor.
Yeah, I just wanted to amplify what you said, Colin. We have this amazing opportunity, which is actually the result of struggles that Black students fought last year to make Cerlac a better place. And so we've been given this money, and it's for Black students, Caribbean students, Indigenous students, and it's also for students who are doing important work on those topics. So last round, we didn't have an enormous number of applicants. So we're hoping that this round we'll have a larger number, and so please consider applying. You can apply for support for your research that you're working on for your degree, but you can also apply for fun things. So things that not to say that your research isn't fun, but you can also apply for other projects that you might want to do, which are maybe involving more than one person. We're interested in collective projects as well, because as you know, the Academy is very individualistic. So we want to have opportunities for students that provide chances for people to work together. And you have a year to spend it in. You don't have to spend it right away. So it's, goes into 2023. So there is time. So please, take advantage of what your struggles have reaped and apply.
Yes, thank you, Honor. Also, before we get into the speakers, I want to first acknowledge that I'm currently situated in Toronto, the area traditionally cared for by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. Today, it's home to other, First Nations, Inuit, Métis communities. I want to acknowledge that the current treaty holders are Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation, and that this territory is subject to the This with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement that has yet to be honored. At an event like this, I think it's important to recognize that land acknowledgements are, a small step in, this grand scheme of decolonization, and that it doesn't erase any of the historical or, present violations happening on the land. It's also important to also distinguish Black practices of land acknowledgement, I think, as different from typical settler practices in that Black people are invoking Black radical traditions that itself stem from loss of indigenous land, right? So I think, in our acknowledgement, it's good to consider what actions are possible and, think about Black indigenous co-resistance, what it could look like. And with that said, I think today's event will maybe prompt those type of reflections. And today's event is actually the first of our Black Table series. It was the name of our series was pitched by Debbie Ebanks, who recalled Professor Trotman's account of Black students in the past who were gathering together and passing around a book where they rated professors and courses on how racist they were, right? So I think we launched this speaker series as, a sort of successor to those spaces where Black students can come together and share ideas and knowledge, or just rant maybe. And with that in mind, I'm really happy to get started with this, with the speakers, two really accomplished artists, scholars, Camille Turner and Natalie Wood. Both of them are here to share their work and their journeys as Black artists and scholars. Yeah, and just going off of who's first on my screen, Camille, if it's okay, you can get started. I've given you the permission to share your screen. Just check if it's possible.
Right. Yep, I think I can.
Okay, perfect.
Great. All right. So thank you so much for this invitation. I am going to be sharing the work I've been doing for the last, 7 years now. And I'm almost at the end of my journey. I'm defending in a few days. So so this is what I've done over the last this time that I've been here. Let me see if I can you see my screen? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Let me see if I can make it full screen. Okay, excellent. All right. August 4th, 2019. I'm in Bonavista, Vista, a small town on the eastern shore of Newfoundland. I've been invited here to participate as an artist in the Bonavista Vista Biennial, an art event that has become an attraction in a place that was produced by and depended on the now collapsed cod fishery. I'm standing in Ryan's premises. Since the 19th century, these white wooden buildings backing onto the water housed one of the largest cod export operations on the island. In 1978, the business came to an end, and 2 decades later, the buildings became a museum offering a curated glimpse of Newfoundland's past. As I walk through the museum, a photograph in a display catches my eye. It dates to the 19th century, and it shows the waterfront where the building is located covered by flakes. And flakes are elevated wooden platforms that are historically used for drying fish. The flakes snake around the shoreline. Where one flake ends, another begins. Tina Camp tells us images communicate in multisensory ways beyond the visual. And what lies outside the frame is just as important as what lies inside. This image brims with silence. Not the quiet type of silence. This is a loud silence, a silence that reaches out to me and commands me to pay attention to what and who is missing. Attending to this image, I notice that it depicts a wooden world built on a shore where there are no trees. A question forms within me. Where did the trees come from to build this wooden world? Through David Collins, I found out that forests once hugged the shoreline. But after 2 generations of colonization, all the trees within 2 miles of the water had been, 3 miles of the water had been extracted to build flakes, boats, barrels, homes, and stages. The Beothuk, one of the indigenous nations on the island, had retreated into the interior forest to avoid the often deadly encounters with invaders. But the colonizers pressed deeper and deeper into the interior in search of more trees to feed their growing fishing industry. With this violent encroachment on their territory, there was no safe place for the Beothuk to retreat to. By the time this photograph was taken, the Beothuk nation was declared extinct. When the trees were devoured, otters, mink, auk, fox, other animals and birds that depended on the forest were no more. The land became scarred and barren. Yet Newfoundland is mythologized and presented as a natural, unaltered, innocent white space. A deep and haunting silence has been produced to obscure the genocide and ecocide that has taken place here. Michel Rolfe Trouillot argues that silence is an active process that takes place in the present. Those who have the power to produce historical narratives also have the power to produce historical silence. I follow this silence. And this silence is communicated so urgently by that image that I showed you at the beginning. And I'm listening for the whispers of ghosts and paying attention to my feeling of being haunted. Avery Gordon explains that haunting are unsettled feelings that manifest in response to loss and violence of the past that linger in the present. Vivian Salihana argues that modernity is underwritten by the intertwined histories of chattel slavery and colonization and is literally bathed in the blood. Modernity is literally bathed in the blood of its victims. The ghosts remain because justice has not been achieved. As I follow the haunting silence and work to unsilence the past, I created 3 interdisciplinary works: Afronautic Research Lab Newfoundland, Nave, and Sarah. These 3 artworks are as integral to my research as the writing that accompanies them. When I set out on this journey, I had no idea where it was going to lead. I was directed by clues like the photograph that I showed at the beginning of this talk, and I was guided by ancestral memory that revealed itself through dreams and intuition. As I opened myself up to the process, the artworks emerged. This is a collective dreaming. I call on what the oceans remember. I call on the waves to divulge their secrets. So what I've shared here is basically a moment from my research creation journey. And I think of what happened in the museum as an epiphany, a moment of sudden clarity that brought me new awareness. There were many such epiphanies on my journey. And epiphany is one of the stages in my research creation process that I'll discuss later. The purpose of my research is to unsilence Canada's historical narratives and to disrupt the way that Canada is mapped as an innocent white space. And I'm doing that through my encounter with 19 slave ships that were constructed in Newfoundland between 1751 and 1788. Now, these ships appear in the archival records, but they're silenced in the mainstream historical accounts. And since, as Trio argues, what happened leaves traces, I follow this trail of silence and I'm searching for the residue of these ships in the archive and in the places where they were built. So by revealing Newfoundland's connection to the transatlantic trade in humans, I'm unmapping and defamiliarizing the landscape to reveal the violence through which it was formed. The seeds of my journey were planted in 2014 in Saint Louis, Senegal. And I stood there in a holding cell where enslaved people had been kept in bondage. I was overwhelmed by the unspeakable horror of what had transpired centuries ago in this dark cell. And there's no way to know if my ancestors had been in this cell. but their memory called out to me and they guided me on this journey. On that same trip, I peered through the door of no return on Gorée Island off the coast of Dakar, Senegal. And this is the most western point of West Africa. This is the fabled place where the vanquished were loaded onto into the cargo hulls of slave ships. And here I contemplated the inconsolable rupture that marks this place, a place that Dion Brand describes as real, imaginary, and imagined. As I gazed across the Atlantic, I felt someone peering back at me as if from the other side of the ocean. A year later, I found myself in Newfoundland, invited by Pamela Edmonds and Bushra Junaid to participate in an exhibition they curated called Newfound Lands. This exhibition explored the historical entanglements of the Caribbean and Newfoundland. Junaid, who's a Newfoundlander of Jamaican and Nigerian heritage, has been researching this topic for decades, piecing together her own family history through this connection. She shared her research with me, including a stunning letter that was addressed to the Bristol merchant, James Rogers, who was the owner of the Sarah, a slave ship made in Newfoundland. In the Slave Voyages database at slavevoyages.org, I found 18 more such ships constructed in Newfoundland for the transatlantic trade. When I arrived, I visited at Cape Spear, which is in Newfoundland, and it's the most eastern point of North America. So what you're seeing on the right is Cape Spear, and what you're seeing on the left is the door of no return on Gorée Island. And I realized when I was standing at Cape Spear, looking out across the Atlantic, that the people I'd seen from the door of no return was me. So I've come to think of this mission as the haunting of ancestors who had been waiting for me to tell their story, a story in which I'm implicated and one through which I came into being. On the 19 slave ships constructed in Newfoundland, 5,798 Africans were trafficked to the Caribbean. 740 of them died on the way. Their bodies were thrown overboard. Into the grave of the Atlantic. Since my own people's history has been severed, these ships could be the very ships that carried my ancestors. So I draw on the concept of the Black Atlantic, a term coined by art historian Robert Ferris Thompson and popularized by Gilroy. The Black Atlantic refers to the modern hybrid cultures that emerged through the massive violent upheaval of 12 million Africans forced across the Atlantic. It is through the ship, this moving place of terror, that nodes of the Black Atlantic were connected. So my work extends the concept of the Black Atlantic to Newfoundland, articulating the ways that racial terror underlies the seemingly innocent space. One of my main contributions is my Afronautic methodology, which I use as a means of disrupting the silence history. There's 4 principles that I've identified in this methodology. Blackness is central, time is nonlinear, imagination is a tool for world making, and silence offers information and direction, as I've shown through my experience in the museum. So I applied these principles both to what I've written and to the artworks. And through mapping, I'm writing the journey of my journey through Newfoundland, and I'm examining 3 sites as I go through Newfoundland, Keels, Bonavista, and Trinity. So throughout this, the development of this project, this research creation project, there are many different stages and phases, and they're overlapping, they're nonlinear, they're messy phases, but I try to articulate what's going on here. So the stages I've called discovery, immersion, incubation, epiphany, and assembly. During the discovery stage, I used listening and walking as methods to investigate the spaces where the ships were constructed. And I have to thank my partner here who came with me on the journey, for his insights into listening. It was his first time in Newfoundland, and like me, he registered its stunning beauty. But unlike me, he noticed its deathly silence. So he urged me to listen. And when I did listen, I realized it really was silent. And I hadn't noticed this before because I was just feasting on what my eyes could devour. But when I attuned myself to listening for what and who was silence, I encountered ghost towns, indigenous dispossession, genocide, and barren shores that were once covered by great stands of pine. So I drew on and expanded Hartman's concept of critical fabulation, which she uses as a tool for art, for historical production, and I use it for a tool for art making. Hartman conceptualized critical fabulation as imagining what may have happened beyond what can be known through the archival records. As I walked on the rocky shores of Newfoundland, I thought about the rocks at Senegal's door of no return. Rocks are ancient beings, and they were here to witness the crimes of the past. When the ships were made, when the ships were made in Newfoundland, they were weighted down with rocks from the local shore. And when they sailed to West Africa, the rocks were dumped out, and so that the people could be loaded in. So I fabulated a rock that traveled to South Senegal as ballast on a slave ship built in Newfoundland, and a time traveler, a character that I use in both Afronautic Research Lab Newfoundland and Nave, who finds the rock in West Africa and brings it back to Newfoundland as a material trace of this history. So the immersion phase was the most difficult and painful phase in the process. Um, During this immersion, what I'm calling the immersion phase, I descended into the archive and I traveled in the slave ship, Sarah, following the records that were kept by captains of the ship who chronicled the sordid details in the trade in black flesh. Um, During immersion, I came face to face with the violence through which my ancestors were counted as merchandise. There are no names recorded for the people in the hold, just numbers. Total embarked, total disembarked. The dead occupy the difference between these two numbers. At this stage, I stopped often to grieve. Since time is non-linear, however, space is shared not only by those who have passed, but by those yet to come. So survive my immersion into the violence of the archive, I envisioned a liberated future, and I anchored myself to that future. Then the next phase, incubation. This is a stage that takes place in my studio, and I define my studio as, the place in my house where I make work, but also walking on the streets. Everything that I'm doing is part of my studio practice. At this point, glimmers of the artworks begin to emerge. They wake me from my dreams to write or draw them. At this point, I try to welcome each idea and not to edit. Some of these ideas became the work that's a part of my dissertation, and others I'll develop later. Epiphanies like the one I described in the beginning of this talk can arise at any stage of the process. The rock, the trees, and the silence, these were all epiphanies. They transmitted vital information that informed and transformed the work. Another epiphany occurred during an event that was celebrating the 20th anniversary of Brand's influential book, A Map to the Door of No Return. And this epiphany happened during the final stage of my process, which is assembly, which is basically when all the work comes together. Brand explains that she had not visited the Door of No Return when she had written the book. But later, when she did visit the door, she was surprised by the sudden realization that it was a miracle that she was alive. Her poem, Verso 55 in The Blue Clerk, represents her presents her journey to the door as a pilgrimage to honor the gods. And that was an aha moment for me. I suddenly realized that what I was staging was a pilgrimage in the hold of a ship. Since, as Calvin Evans explains, shipwrights were some of Newfoundland's first builders. Some of the churches were built by shipwrights. Looking up into the naves of these churches is like looking down into the hold of a ship. So I decided to flip the meaning of the church and use the nave to represent the hold. And I staged nave as a space for Middle Passage memory, a place to give thanks, to care for, to reclaim the ancestors. So two characters come together here, a time traveler from the future who pours libations inside the nave of the church to honor those who endured the Middle Passage, and an ancestor from the past who emerges from the water to offer a song and dance, reminding the diaspora of what our ancestors have endured and survived. Drawing inspiration from Brand, the hold became a transcendent place in which the story can be processed and imagined. So together, these three artworks, Nave, Afronautic, Research Lab Newfoundland, and Sarah, disrupt and unmap Canada's white settler space, and they reveal the presence of the past, and gesture towards the futures that they make imaginable. I hope we'll have a little time for a discussion. I look forward to discussing the artworks with you. I wanted to show one of the pieces. They're quite long, so there's one that's about 6 minutes. I don't know if we have time for that.
Oh, we do. We have time for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can just stop sharing this screen and then share the other one.
Oh, I see. That's how you do it. Okay. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Okay, I think this is it. Oh, that's not, sorry. I'm not sure if I can do this. Jalissa, do you have that video I sent you?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Just one.
This always happens. It's confusion of the sharing. So yeah,
No.
it show, I think the shortest one is Afronautic Research Lab Newfoundland. So if you could show that one.
Great.
Camille,
Yes.
so
Yeah. Oop. Honor.
that's the only one you're going to share?
Yeah, because it's 6 minutes. The other ones are 12 minutes.
Oh,
You think I should show the other one, don't you?
yes, because we've seen that.
Okay. Jalissa, could you share Nave? Should it be
You don't
Nave?
have to show the whole of it. You don't have to show. I think it's fine. We can stop it before it ends.
All right. All right, great. And so the part you will see, Emily is the performer in the part that you're gonna see of this one. So this is Nave. Maybe we can just share like about 5 or 10, 5 minutes or so.
I'm very sorry. I know I look like a bully, but the reason I'm urging you to share that one is because that is particularly related to what you just said. So, and a lot of us have seen the other one. So,
Okay.
Sorry, Camille, what was it called again?
Nave. So it's yeah, the last one on that. Do you have that one? Uh-oh.
I see the PDF.
Oh, no worries. Okay. Let me see if I can do this. I think what sorry, guys.
Oh, I think I have it. I can.
Okay.
Oh, I
It's-
see it. Great.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you so
okay.
much. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Colin.
If you can make it full screen. Yeah.
Okay, let me know if there's sound or not.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't hear any sound.
There's no sound? Okay.
Yeah, there should be sound.
Okay, 1 second.
No one has ever seen this piece, by the way. I mean, an audience. So this is the first time showing it.
Moins ses ancêtres qui fait songer, qui nous Moins même ses ancêtres qui fait songer, qui nous qui nous Moins ses ancêtres qui fait songer, qui nous C'est depuis la Guinée, mon absent des moins. Mon absent des moins, c'est moi-même gauche. c'est moi-même, Zila.
So for the interest in time, like in the interest of, we'll just stop there, and so that we can also give Natalie enough time to speak, and then we'll have also discussion. But I think what we've seen, it was already very generative and really amazing. I was very engrossed and like couldn't really take my eyes off of it. But anyways, get straight into Natalie. Natalie, you have the floor. Thank you, Camille. Also, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you. Wow, Camille, amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing. And so yeah, I guess I'll just start talking. Thank you to folks at Cerlac for organizing this and definitely getting me to see some of Camille's videos and hear her approach to her PhD and her dissertation. So, okay, I will see if I could share my screen. Okay, I have to allow, lovely. Okay, sorry.
I have your video prepared just in case.
Okay, that might be, let me try it again. Yeah, it came up. Brilliant. Okay. All right, so whereas Camille's approach to her dissertation is silent and contemplative, mine is a little different. So I'll describe myself first, and I'll put this to here. So I'm an artist, a professor at George Brown College, teaching social innovation and group work. In a social work program, I'm a PhD student in my third year at UC. And for the purposes of today, I'll share that I'm also a carnivalist and a Blue Devil performer. And I am the founder of the Blue Devil Posse, the Toronto-based Blue Devil Posse. I'm also someone who a month ago decided to change my dissertation topic. The question of my dissertation at that time was, how do African Caribbean diasporic artists and culture producers imagine and sustain models of liberation and change in the face of anti-Black racism in the present? My plan at the time was to investigate the organizations of the different book lists, Cultural Center, and Wild Seed Art and Activism Center. I realized that I felt no real enthusiasm for this topic. And I felt, among many other things, that I wasn't sure that I wasn't going to reveal strategies of survival and organization and organizing that could be exploited. I felt this topic wasn't personal enough and did not allow me to easily engage in a research creation project. That image, there's me if you can't recognize it. So my new and evolving question is, and I'll pull this up now, what are the stories, and I guess I could do this. What are the stories of liberation and resistance that feed the performance of the Blue Devil from emancipation to the present? And how does this translate to quotidian acts of resistance and marriage for the Black queer subject. So this question broken down really gets at me wanting to understand the role of the Blue Devil performance in my familial lineage and in my life. Blue devils, masqueraders, entirely covered in blue mud and spewing red drool in imitation of blood. Blue devils typically act berserk, sexual, and ravenous. To a degree, their costumes are open to personal preference and can include pitchforks, various kinds of masks, wings, and horns. This image here is a Blue Devil group in Trinidad, sometime in sometime in 2000s, in early 2000s. Blue Devils are a traditional Caribbean carnival masquerade character that originated in Trinidad and is a Caribbean archetypal energy that emerged from the original Jab Malassie masquerade after emancipation in 1834. According to Hollis Calypso Choctaws, Liverpool, these jabs or devils are expressions of rebellion. Carnivals are spaces of performance, costuming, orality, burlesques, and farces, aggressive but controlled threats, drunken revelry, licentious and provocative promenading, quasi-street theater, and transvestism. That's from Green and Share. The Caribbean Carnival first emerged in Trinidad and Tobago and moved out to the other islands and to the Caribbean diaspora. Juve, an Afro-French Creole word, derives from the French word juve, which means to open for daybreak, opening or daybreak. According to Tony Hall, this juve ritual was and still is a burlesque political street procession, which started in the mid-19th century as a protest and an expression of emancipation. Today, it also comprises erotic, rarely gender-sensitive gyrating bodies covered in mud and or paint of all colors, fueled by percussive steel drum orchestras, the pan, massive electronic DJ trucks, alcohol, and other spirits which are awakened in the dark and then evaporate at the first inkling of the sun, a ritual of the sunrise. So I want to compare the performance of the Blue Devil in Trinidad with its performance in Toronto. I want to apply the Black radical tradition and its theories of liberation and resistance and marriage to the performance of the Blue Devil. I also want to apply queer theory and its ability to challenge heteronormative assumptions that identities are fixed and stable. Instead, I agree that all identities are fluid. Queer theory also challenges the binary ways of thinking that is championed in most Western cultures. So when you think of the Blue Devils, this is another performer in Trinidad. When you think of the Blue Devils, you're thinking of resistance and refusal against Black subjectivity. They are containers for rage and they provide catharsis. Queers, and what they do is it queers the masquerade, queers race, gender, sexuality, and space. And in terms of the binary arguments, it challenges this binary notion of human versus animal, sacred versus profane, low mass versus high mass, plantation versus plot, and the living versus the dead. So my relationship to Blue Devil Mass, I'll just hit the button to show you some images as I speak, is that while in an art residency in Trinidad in 2006, I witnessed or was an audience member, even a performer in the performance of the Blue Devils of Paramin in Trinidad. I was transformed. And after that, I formed the Blue Devil Posse. On Facebook, I explained the Blue Devil Posse has performed at Carabana, Scotiabank Caribbean Carnival, Buddies in Bad Times Theater, Harborfront, Juve, the Dyke March, Blocko, and Pride. And about Blue Devils, There are red devils, white devils, black devils, even gold devils, but the worst and the baddest is the blue devil. The practice of blue deviling hails from a little hillside community in Trinidad called Paramin. It's a practice that was developed from the experiences of enslaved Africans as part of the carnival celebrations that take place yearly in Trinidad. The blue devil is the worst because this devil will make you pay for your role in exploiting and oppressing Black people, other groups of people, and communities, including queer people worldwide. For one moment in time, the blue devil demands that the tables be turned and has come to get what is owed. For those in blue, the blue devil is a dance and a performance that insists on transcending the spectacle and instead focuses on embodying the forces of justice. So let me see. These are some images of the preparation for the Blue Devil performance at Blocko. Those balls, we threw it out into the audience because we were on stage, which is something so separating the performer from the audience is something that is not really a practice of Blue Devil. Here we were at York University. We were protesting the gay blood donor ban. And yeah, so here we are. This is my father. So a few months ago, I learned that my father had formed with his partners a Blue Devil mass band that performed every year for several years, a couple decades ago. Like, I didn't know this before. So there's a tradition here. My father is a carnivalist, and his father was also a carnivalist, a mass man. So I'm carrying on the tradition, not knowing at first that I was carrying on the tradition. So my first comp, so again, remember, this is a new process, not a new process, but my dissertation has changed, my focus has changed. So I am still, so I apologize to everyone. Don't have, yeah, I just apologize to everyone for the roughness of it, which incidentally is a very Blue Devil thing, okay? So the plan, my plan so far is to do my first comp. Of course, my first comp, I plan to write a paper on the presence of the devil and its counter narratives of resistance and queerness in the artwork of 3 artists. The artists are Nandifa Matambo. This is her piece here called Europa. And you can see why I'm drawing upon her work. She is a South African artist. I'm also going to look at Tessa Mars. Tessa Mars is a Haitian artist creating work in the, as she embodies a character called Dessalines. So, or Tessalines, sorry. And you can see the Blue Devil here, right? Then the next one is Tao Lewis's, let me just move this so that I can remember, Devil Ray sculpture. And you could see it on the far right. So, and you know, that is a stance, you know, a movement integral to Blue Devils. Okay, so so you'll see here some images. These are images that I've created that are Blue Devils as part of my encountering series. And I'll just continue what I imagine I will do for my second comps is I will create a course on carnival as a method of knowledge production for living the afterlife of slavery. And in particular, I'm going to be looking at utopia, the images of utopia, rebellion, and protest, and the creative force of catharsis and transformation. So my dissertation is meant to be a research creation project, applying a critical ethnographic approach that will include some aspects of autoethnography. And I am very much interested in creating an international Blue Devil archive. My purpose doing all of this is to expand on discussions within the Black radical tradition and Marinage that includes the performance of the Blue Devil as a form of resistance. I want to situate the absented Black queer body in Carnival, specifically in Juve and the old mass tradition of Blue Devil. And I want to add to the queering of the Caribbean Carnival in the diaspora and to record the presence of diasporic queer performances in Pride. So that's what I am imagining at this point in time. I would like to also show you, let me see. I would also like to show you a video. Let me see. New share, stop sharing. I want to share sound. Okay, I guess that's put it. Let me close this for a bit. Let me look at my desktop. I will show you a 5-minute video, if that's okay with folks. And it is called Blue. Okay, let's pause it for a second. Okay. This is going to be noisy. Okay, so let me share this and see sound. Wow, so many. Okay, tell me if you can hear it.
This is the Blue Devil call. Where me jab jab? Where me jab jab? The devil walk. We are unbeatable, unstoppable. We are resistance, transformation, the grotesque, power, pleasure, and sexuality. The devil is on the stage tonight, howling, whining, screaming, and threatening to mark all ya. And what we want to know is, are you woke? Are you woke? Wake up!
Put all of this into the bucket and pull it. All right, everybody. Okay, watch out for.
almost done. Okay. Okay, so I will stop that now. Okay.
Wow,
It's still
thank
there.
you. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing. I think, isn't it? I think it's so fitting for like the devil to be our champions and to put on a mask and the horns and get wild, scare some people off. Um, well, I think it's time to open the floor to questions and any comments from everybody. So if you want to speak, just raise your hand.
Can
Jalissa, go
I
ahead.
ask a question?
Oh,
Sure.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just I had a question about your video, Natalie. So was the footage taken in Trinidad, or was it like accumulated from different carnivals?
So yeah, I should have introduced it a little better. So it's footage of the Blue Devil Posse in Toronto. And so, you know, there is footage from 2006 when we first began. So there's some there all the way up till I think 2018, 2017, 2018. You know, we still continue to perform. We performed last year. And so that was some of the images that I showed that we performed last year. But yeah. So that's a Blue Devil Posse in Toronto. And I'm looking for ways to understand how we perform Blue Devils, because the environment of Toronto, Canada shifts our ability to dance and perform in ways that it limits our possibilities of performance, right? Because often people want us on stages, and we're not a stage thing. So yes, at one point in time, the AGO tried to have us perform at the AGO, but it took it was like a 4-hour conversation of me trying to explain to the curator what was required, right? Like that I can't control the Blue Devils when they embody Blue Devil, because any kind of social contract is torn up, and blue on white walls is lovely, right? So anyway, never got to do it at AGO as a result. So yeah, so you know, that's part of, you know, there's more to come with that. But I wanted to know from Camille, this process of this method that you use of silence. And, you know, first of all, it reminds me of song, like Bessie Phillips' song, and the kind of silences that she creates when she breaks apart words. And once you do that, you can actually hear the voices, right? So, you know, so I guess my question is twofold. One is to explain more about that methodology, how you came by it, and also to find out from you about the grieving process, right? Because Blue Devils is such a push out, right? Um, and just like a force, right? But yours is a contemplative, um, interaction with the archive. So yeah, I just wondered about that.
Hmm. Thanks for that question, Natalie. It's so interesting because I didn't know very much about the Blue Devils before, and when you said they came out of the hold, that was interesting, and I'm really interested in that overlap. So we definitely, I would love to.
Yes, that blue
Yeah.
is that blue of the sea, right? If you see them coming down the hills in Paramin, it looks like water just floating down. It's quite fascinating.
Gave me
But yes,
goosebumps thinking about that. It's amazing. Yeah, I loved, I mean, Norbesi's work is definitely one of the points of departure for me, or one of the inspirations for me. Her method of um, excavating the silences between, and finding what's hidden, you know. Um, so yeah, it's I feel like this method came out of the silences in the archive, really, and also the silences on the land. I mean, it's just there everywhere you go. You're really met with silence. And how do you find a way to recuperate the presence that's been so well hidden, so well sealed in this kind of white space of silence, so, and also there's so much, it's so well camouflaged that it's almost, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable that there are slave ships that were built all along, not even just the Newfoundland, all along the Atlantic coast. There are slave ships that were built. There were 42 that are listed in the Slave Voyages database, and there's, it's difficult to even figure out if that's, I'm sure that that's not all of them. That's just what's been listed so far, or what's been found so far. And then, as I said, you can't find any names in these databases. So how do you bring about that presence? And my idea is that, this presence, and with the, I'm drawing on hauntology, and the hauntological methods of Sally Hanna and Avery Gordon. They talk about, and also Toni Morrison talk about the space as being a container for memory, rememory, this repetitive memory that continues to stay because it has not been expunged, it has not been faced, it has not been acknowledged, so walking in these spaces there, and paying attention to what I'm feeling. When I went there, I had no idea what I was going to encounter at all. But walking in these spaces and just paying attention, all of these ideas and feelings and this knowledge sort of was built from just walking and listening, and just being attentive to what there is. It was amazing. It's like being a magnet for all of these things coming to me. And yeah, and it makes you realize that, like Leon Brand says, it's possible that everything is washed in it. This is foundational to the modern world. If you take away this history, then this world wouldn't exist. Yeah.
Um,
Is it Juanita? Did you have something to say?
Oh, I did, thanks. My question is, I guess it came out of the comment that you made, Natalie, about the AGO and social contracts going out the window. And I'm kind of curious for either of you or for both of you, how you did or how you're planning to reconcile your research creation project or your own creative process with the requirements of a PhD dissertation, how you kind of think of those two things together.
Yeah, well, honestly, it's not an easy kind of fit, and I feel like there's so much. I feel like there's a lot of work that the Academy has to do to really. I mean, there's this idea that there are, different types of knowledges. There's different forms that knowledge can take, but really the text is the sort of way that the Academy recognizes knowledge, right? And so that I find really problematic. And I feel like I would love to spend all my time making art, because for me that's where the work, that's what the work is, that's where it comes out of. Everything that I'm writing, I couldn't write if it wasn't for the art making, but then it takes up so much of your time and energy to do the writing. I just found myself putting so much energy into that. So to me there's a real disconnect with what the Academy says and what the actual practice on the ground of doing the work. And I think this kind of work is it's so needed. I feel like how do you approach this kind of spectral existence of this history? I feel like this approach using art gets at things that are very difficult to get at in other ways. So I think it's needed, and I feel like there needs to be more space made. Yeah.
I want to echo what Camille said. And just for you to know, Juanita, at first I thought, I'd have to make artwork and then I'd have to write about it. So I'm just going to do the writing part. And really, it just did not appeal to my soul. So here I am, year 3, shifting things so that I could actually make some, to just do the art, right? Which is not for me, it's not so much a haunting as a yelling to be done, right? Like it's front and center. So yeah, so I'm now engaging in this journey, hearing what Camille and seeing what Camille has experienced, and just going, yep, I'm preparing myself. So yes.
Emile Andre.
Yeah, Emily. Yeah.
Emily,
Hi.
sorry.
No, that's fine. Oh my goodness, Natalie and Camille, your works are just frightening in such a powerful way. Camille, I had a question for you. So, we've had conversations about your work. And one thing that really struck me, and that to this moment strikes me, is the fact that in the records you found that enslaved people had been brought to Jacmel Hispaniola, that then became Haiti after the revolution. And I think what I find so frightening about that is that when I speak to people who've grown up in Haiti, who learned the history in and out, they specifically say that they learned that there were never any enslaved boats that landed in Jacmel. So, and I just find that fascinating, because it means that your research that is obviously, transcontinental and is making all these connections, is really breaking open like some of the stories that aren't told, and the fact that, you know, like you said, none of these people are named, and so many things, you know, and so it just makes me so curious about the possibilities of your research, and just how it challenges like all sorts of histories and, you know, and norms in a sense. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you both, and Natalie also, you know, Blue Devil, like I saw that and I thought, oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll get in touch with both of you, but thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you for your collaboration. You know, I talked about epiphanies. Emily was a huge part of the reason why this work shifted. Because when I was first doing the work, it was going to be just the part in the church. And then Emily said, oh, I could, you know, I could sing this song. And she sang the song for me. It was an incredible moment because I realized, wow, this song speaks so much to what needs to be happening in this piece. The song is about African ancestors crossing the water. And it's a song of liberation. It's a song of triumph. It's a song that says, you know, and it's sung in Creole. It's such a beautiful piece. I don't know if Emily, you want to say something about the song, but I just was
Sure.
inspired by it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just say quickly that in the last year or so, I also dove right into Haiti's culture and like relearned a lot of the folk. And so this song is actually a song that a lot of Haitians actually don't necessarily know. And it's very metaphorical. So it's talking about, you know, being a rock. It's talking about coming from Africa. It's talking about just being that immovable force that nobody can crack open. Like, so essentially the way I embodied it was like, it's like a secret and you cannot break into it. Like Haiti is that secret, that unchangeable place that is sort of the birthplace of I don't know if I want to say like resistance, but it's like a place where it's so profoundly complex. And because the Western world just cannot break it down, there are just all these like layers of secrecy that reflect that resistance, that reflect like this alternative world that forever is free, but is constantly. So yeah, I don't know that I'm doing justice to this analysis, and I don't want to take up too much space, but yeah, it's very metaphorical. So you know, maybe you could share the words actually, Camille, and then people can sort of or should.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have them in front of
Oh,
me.
okay, that's fine. So
One of the parts that I love though is the part where, you know, you tried to hurt me and I basically
right,
rise into the air, you know.
right.
I love that. And it's a song of triumph. It's a
Mhm.
song of victory. It centers the Caribbean, which is such a pivotal place.
Right.
It's interesting how like a lot of the literature on slavery is not centering the Caribbean, and how can you not? This is
Right. Thank you, Juanita. Sure, I will. Well, I mean, and one sentence I guess I could say, or two, is, so the first sentence is, c'est depuis m'nan Guinée, moun ap sonde mwen, which means from when they took me from Africa, people have been testing me. And then the sentence that you like, Camille, is uh, they think they have me, but I turn into smoke. Like I'm, you know, we're that untouchable, like that opacity of Blackness, like you just can't get to it. Thank you so much. I'll put the lyrics.
okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Honor, do you have something to say?
Sorry,
Ah. You're muted though.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm sorry, it started to rain, so I had to go close the door. I thank you for that, everybody. I want to try and put a couple you into conversation, and I'm gonna try to do it in maybe two ways. So one question that I have for Natalie is, Camille kind of outlined a process that she undertook in relation to, trying to unearth the history of these slave ships that were built in Newfoundland. And she outlined sort of steps in her approach. It wasn't just silence. She had that, but she also had let me see, 8 movements back and forth in time. She had discovery, and I don't remember all the steps, but discovery, epiphany, I've got it all muddled up, but and I just wondered whether that resonated for you in any way. I just wondered, that whether that resonated for you, or whether you had something to add on or something to challenge that. I just wondered how that worked for you, how you felt about that process. And the other thing I wondered, well, let me just leave it at that for now.
Okay, thanks, Anna. I have to say that I love the Camille's work is grounded on an archive, right? And even though slavery and Black presence is something that is not part of that archive, or not part of the what is it, the regular archive. She had to go find it, in other words, that it's grounded in that. And I love that piece about her work, and I love the piece that, so it's like the data takes her, right? Like she's in conversation with either the absence or the presence of the slave ships and slavery in the archive, a big A archive, but also a recreating of, not a recreating, but I feel like you are manifesting a new archive in the process, right? And that's part of what I think you do with the Afronautic Research Lab, right? Which is pretty cool. So yeah, so I think, so for me, hers is it's more materially based. I don't know if that's possible, right? For me, I think my work is still pretty much in the potential, or the realm of the imagination. I think I'm not sure, right? So all I know is that I really, really like the fact that her work is grounded in this. I know that in terms of the Blue Devil, there's no archive really, and in fact, the Blue Devils in Paramount are saying that they feel like the Blue Devil performance is being lost, and so they're trying ways right now in order to revive it. There's the Next Level Blue Devil group that's trying to do that. So I'm interested in how the fire from the Caribbean gets transported to here, and continues to inspire, because continues to inspire and continues to provide a container or space, or creates a space for resistance. I don't know. And, I'm looking at the Black queer body, and the Black queer body has been written out of Carnival. In particular, the beginning of Carnival, so emancipation in 1834, right? There's not a recognition of the Janet culture. There's not a recognition. Actually, I came across Carriacou. I don't know if anybody knows about Carriacou. And Carriacou is considered to be like an Isle of Lesbos in the Caribbean. I found that out last night. So I don't know. So I'm trying to situate myself in that place. Like I feel like I'm just rambling right now. So I'll just stop. But suffice it to say that I told my daughter that I was changing my PhD and I was going to do this, and she was just so happy. She's like, really? Anyway, so yes, Carriacou from Zami, Audre Lorde talks about it off of Grenada. Does that answer?
Well, it's an answer. I think you're pointing to a number of elements. Like Camille is at kind of at the end of a process that you're at the beginning of. I mean, you're just starting, you've just shifted your topic. Camille doesn't Camille goes between Africa, London, West Africa, London, and Newfoundland. And the Caribbean isn't really part of that thesis, whereas yours is more part of it. It's more part of yours. But I mean, there are a lot of questions to answer. And I think also the references that you make to the way that other people have used the Blue Devil or have worked with the idea of the Blue Devil, because the devil is something that appears throughout the region. I mean, it's one of the unifying repertoires of the region. In Jonquil in Jamaica, you have a devil. It's not a blue devil, but it's a devil. In the Dominican Republic, you have a devil. In Grenada, you have a devil. You have devils wherever there's carnival. You have a devil. The blue devil is a specific one that maybe overlaps but is different. And the thing is, where does the blueness come from? And how does that? What is that? Because free associating with it, it reminds me of, I mean, in Haiti, and probably Emily can help here, this thing of throwing liquid on people, like throwing powder and throwing liquid in carnival. This is another classic piece of the repertoire. But so there are many things. The thing is, like, there's a question of focus that I think you're still kind of grappling with, but so it's interesting to see where you're starting, how you're starting, and I feel very much that there's a passion there. I feel a real, I feel like this is a rock. This is the rock passion, the rock hard, liquid lava-like passion that is in the work. What are the elements of the journey that Camille has taken that might help you to provide some stepping stones? I mean, one of the sorry, I'm rambling now and taking up too much time. One of the things that I wanted to just say also is Camille started with she was very determined that she was going to write in a narrative style. And that made her thesis very different. She tells a story of how she created this work. That's the center of the piece in terms of the style. And I wondered whether you had any responses to that. So it isn't very much a thesis. It isn't a thesis where you go, okay, well, there was this thing that happened, which was there was this, these slave ships these ships that were constructed in Newfoundland, and the owners were in Britain, and it wasn't a historical account of the construction of the slave ships. It wasn't a historical account of the environmental destruction of Newfoundland because of that. It was an account of a story of building a peace. And I just wondered whether that triggered anything for you in terms of the story of the Blue Devils coming here.
Okay, yes, I think when I think about Camille's work, I see the the feeling state, like the interaction with the ships is it's contemplative, but it's also one where it reminds me of oh gosh, what's this guy's name? It's poetic. It's a like, you know, a poesis, I think is right. And I think with the Blue Devil doesn't really have like the information about why blue isn't, you know, it's all surmised. People all talk, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, right? And I think maybe in that respect that you know, in encountering the Blue Devil, in relating to the Blue Devil, that is a process. It's a process that I can, you know, find myself in, because, you know, because if I am, when I embody the Blue Devil, I cannot speak. It's a place of unwords. It really is a place of unwords. And it's the same for all of the other performers. It's just like, right? So yeah, so it would need to be a poetic kind of conversation or discourse with the devil, kind of similar to High Mass. High Mass has a kind of this book that Kevin Brown, I think is his, I'm not sure what his name is. Anyway, he wrote about embodying the Blue Devil, and it's very much journalistic, journal-like, and, you know, has this kind of flow, almost mesmerizing kind of flow to it. But so yes, so I think there is a way that the process, do you have a name for your process, Camille?
Yeah, I call it an aphronautic methodology. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It kind of started, I started calling it that long before I understood what the elements were. And I feel like it's a process of still, you know, continuing to understand, because the work exists. And then you have to step back and look at it and say, okay, so what's actually going on, you know?
Right.
And I'm still learning. I'm still kind of getting to understand what's in it. And some of it you can't really even talk about, or you can't really pull it apart. Or if you do pull it apart, it all falls apart. So, do you know what I mean? So it's a process, and I find words really tricky to use to describe the process. You know, you're a performer, and it's I got very excited when I saw what you were doing, because I could see how a methodology, it, you know, to be able to articulate that methodology, to be able to share that methodology, to be able to apply it to other things, like it's such an interesting, rich experience, just being able to step back and see it. I suppose that's what academe gives. It's just that space to be able to step back and look and see, oh, this is what it is. And then, you know, and how you can share it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, aphronautic. Yeah, the Blue Devil for me is a character immersed in the blue sea. It's part of that centering of kind of connected to that, to dialectics and the process of centering the sea, and the sea as the conduit So yeah, so that awaits me, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's exciting. Yeah, when like for instance, when I called it Afronautics, I didn't even think about the nautical. It was one of my
Yes.
community members who said, "Oh, and it's like, of course, it's centering the sea and it yeah, you will find your own. It's how to be. You'll start being able to pull it apart and
Mm,
it's going to be really exciting.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it will be. I just feel like anyway, it will be.
And it doesn't end. I'm at the end of this dissertation, but it's still gonna keep going,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
which
It's
is
such
why
a
it's a good thing you chose something you're so passionate about, because you
that
get to live with
that's
this thing for a while.
that's what I thought as well. I need to find a way through this. And I think Bruno had a question for me. And yeah, the African religious practices. So Trinidad is very much a Shango um, culture, like, right? We worship, a lot of people there worship Shango. And so Shango is associated with fire, and the Blue Devils actually breathe fire. Like, part of what they do is eat fire, as they call it, right? So they eat fire, and they also traditionally would walk with snakes. So and definitely there is a connection to the worship of Dambala, and um, and the Blue Devil itself is a very trickstery kind of character. So I don't know if any of that, you know, yeah, sacred and profane. But yeah. Hmm. Yeah, wow. Yeah, there's something like with your work, there's a preciousness, it feels to it. There is a kind of, I don't know how else to describe, but us like a uh, like a it's tasty, it's precious, right? And it feels very much like the Blue Devil is a bit more of a you know think about the hold and the seas and the right, like it kind of transports you. It feels like it transports back to that place. Um so yeah, and and it providing a bridge is something that I'm very interested in with my artwork as well. So yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but you know, I'm so happy I was able to do this because this has been like really uh, stressful, changing this at the last minute, feels like. But oh yeah, Anna has a question in there in the chat. Oh yeah, she's asking the organizers what's next.
Okay, yeah. I just want to say thank you. I guess it's a good way to wrap up. That is like the time we asked our speakers to be here with us. Thank you to Camille. Thank you to Natalie for coming here and sharing with us. And I also want to thank all our participants and everyone at Cerlac who supported us in creating this event. In terms of what next, we have a student publication coming up that we want to launch this month, and we also have other events we're planning. Another speaker series, and then we also want to try to connect with students and scholars from the Caribbean, and hopefully have them be in conversation with us here on Zoom as well. So please look forward to updates on that. But with that, once again, thank you, Camille. Thank you, Natalie, for being with us here today. I think it was so enriching and impactful. It was a really, and thank you for starting off our speaker series so well. And yeah, and that's all I have to say. If you guys have anything more to add, please go ahead.
Yeah, nothing more from me, but just thank you. I'm just about to defend, so it's really it's so exciting to get to present to this is the first time I'm presenting what I've done, so I'm just really thankful for your invitation and the wonderful feedback and this opportunity, and to be in conversation with Natalie as well. I'm so excited for you, Natalie, what you're doing. So yeah, this is great.
So I have to echo, thank you, Camille. I have to echo what Camille says. You know, at midnight last night, I was struggling, going, what the hell am I going to say? But I'm glad that I was able to pull something together, and also to get your feedback as well. So I really do appreciate this opportunity. This is a great idea.
Yeah.
Especially during this time, really trying to have conversations with each other. So thank you so much for that. And Camille's work is so rich that, you know, anybody standing next to it is going to feel some of that richness coming out. So happy to be here with Camille.
Thank you both so much. We really appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll let everyone go. It was a really great event. Thank you to everybody.
Bye.